Pet Peeves, An Oral History by Diane Michaels. Foreword. With 12 Emmy Awards, an astonishing 244 episodes, and eternal life in syndication, Pet Peeves reigns as America's favorite sitcom. Millions of viewers tuned in every Tuesday night for 11 seasons and followed the off-camera antics and romances of the cast with equal ardor. A casual conversation between two members of the cast while they shot the final episode grew into a year-long project of one-on-one interviews conducted with over 36 cast members, network executives, writers, crew members, and other people connected to the series. Their responses, stitched together into a collective oral history, tell the story of Pet Peeves from its creation through the series finale. Chapter 1. The Beginning. Another Day to Live. Elvin Shatsky, co-creator, Pet Peeves. People forget that my sitcom, Pet Peeves, started out as a soap opera. Thelonious Trout, chairman of ABS Television Network. The daytime drama Another Day to Live began airing on weekdays at 2 o'clock beginning in September 2004. I hated to kill the show after only 5 weeks, but if I had let it continue to run, it could have cost me my job. I was paying off the mortgage on a vacation home in Oahu I had bought a few months earlier. The show's ratings were in the toilet. It was an easy call. Stephen Burrows, producer, control room, and scriptwriter. It's possible the viewer comments made the network brass more nervous than the ratings did. Viewers had told us the storylines hooked them in and the actors were perfect in their roles. That's not where the problem lay. What kept coming up was people didn't believe the show fulfilled their expectations of what a daytime drama should be. I read somewhere we had viewers who found the show to be too funny. Wayne Quimby, head writer, Another Day to Live. How can a daytime drama be funny? We were serious daytime drama writers with long, illustrious careers in the industry. No one has ever accused me of being funny. I had worked my way up to head writer at Things Just Keep Getting Worse a couple of years earlier. I loved the show and didn't want to leave it. But I couldn't say no when ABS tapped me to create a new show. After getting the go-ahead to produce Another Day, we immediately hired Kendra to be our breakdown writer. She had spent about a dozen years in the writers' rooms of a couple of Emmy Award-winning shows. We brought her in especially because she was the amnesia queen. Kendra Lewis Frost, breakdown writer, Another Day to Live.
I had forgotten that they used to call me the Queen of Amnesia. I must have come up with 50 different amnesia storylines before I signed on to write Another Day to Live. Let's see. On one show, a character forgot everything when he knocked his head against a rock whilst rock climbing. Mere days after he regained his memory, his wife fell out of a boat as it sailed through shallow waters. She hit her head on a rock, wiping her memory clean. These examples should provide you with an idea of the types of plot lines I had earned a reputation for developing.
Wayne Quimby. The basic premise of Another Day was two dueling families in one city. Archibald Edward Quinn II, a.k.a. Duke, was the CEO of a mega-corporation. He owned half the town and all the politicians. Harold Copeland was the district attorney. He had a real hard-on for Quinn. The story arc we had envisioned had the DA finding the evidence to put Quinn away at the end of Season 3. Seasons 4 and 5 would then follow Quinn's quest for revenge from his prison cell. We'd have additional storylines about forbidden love, amnesia, the usual fare. David Solomon, director, Another Day to Live. I jumped at the chance to direct Another Day when they offered it to me, and not just because I needed the gig. I'm not saying my gambling debts had gotten out of hand or anything. Kim Gifford, ABS Entertainment Chairman.
I had been the vice president of daytime programming when we first considered developing Another Day. I was sure we had a winning show on our hands. We cast Moishe Bronfman and Blaine Carson to play the patriarchs. They were both familiar to daytime audiences, Moishe from All Our Scandals and Blaine from Whispers. Bronwyn Davies, who he cast as Felicity Copeland on Another Day, was clearly a rising star. I first noticed her when she played the role of Patrick Blake's mistress on From Boardroom to Bedroom.
Bronwyn Davies, actor, Felicity Copeland.
I loved the plot twist on Boardroom when they revealed my character was actually Patrick's sister. I couldn't wait to see where they were going to take things next. But the actress playing his wife complained to the head writer that I was getting more lines than her. He must have had a thing for women who complained a lot because they started dating. Next thing I knew, they wrote me off the show by having the wife lace my lipstick with poison. My exit from the show also marked the end of my relationship with Frank, the actor who played Patrick.
Kim Gifford.
Wade Hansen, the actor who portrayed Archibald Edward Quinn III, a.k.a. Trip, had a few small acting credits to his name when we cast him to appear in the role of Moisha's son. It was worth the risk of casting a near unknown in the role of Trip. His face alone sold me. He was born to play the scion of a billionaire on a daytime drama. Dark hair, broodingly handsome, with a whiff of the frat boy. Stiff as a board, but in a good way.
Kendra Lewis Frost.
Of course, Felicity and Trip would meet in the first episode and fall madly in love, unaware of the strife between their families. Who can resist a good retelling of the Romeo and Juliet story?
Julius Welk, assistant director, Another Day to Live. I think where we went wrong was casting Austin Hughes as what we call an under 5, an actor with 5 or fewer lines, in the first episode. Austin Hughes, actor, Peter Gluck. My background was comedy. Mostly stand-up, but I had a couple of bit parts in movies under my belt when I appeared on Another Day. Violet Vi, casting director.
We needed a foil for Trip, someone who would, prime the pump for when Felicity finally meets Trip. Wade had the smoldering good looks of a romantic lead in a daytime drama. Austin
Hughes. I fit a certain stereotype, chunky comedian. The guy whose body is perfect for physical comedy, in the mold of Chris Farley. I go for it when I'm on stage at a comedy club. If I happen to get hurt in the process, so be it. Well, provided the joint has insurance. Wayne Quimby. So the way we wrote it was in the first episode, Felicity lies in a hospital bed in the ICU. She's in a coma. She's been unconscious for 3 weeks. Trip is the handsome doctor treating her. They are fated to fall in love. Obviously, the romance would have to wait until she woke up. Before the action starts, Peter had found her on the beach. She was bleeding and unconscious. She had no ID on her. The scene begins with Peter hovering over her hospital bed. She awakens and asks him if he's her doctor. He tells her the story of when he found her and what has happened since. She doesn't remember a thing. Kendra Lewis Frost.
They wasted no time in asking me to plot my 51st amnesia scene.
Julius Welk.
What should have happened was when Trip enters to check on his patient, Peter slips out of the room, never to be heard from again. Everything went according to plan in the rehearsals earlier in the day.
Austin Hughes. I was desperate for a gig. I told my agent to get me auditions for anything. Dog food commercials, off-Broadway, cat food commercials. I wasn't ambitious, just broke. He sent me to read for Another Day to Live. I was thinking, are you sure you meant to send me to audition for a soap opera? After landing the gig, I promised myself I would do everything in my power to keep them from writing me off the show after only 1 scene. Sonia Santiago, production assistant, Another Day to Live.
When we shot the scene, Austin backed away from the bed on cue and tripped over Wade's feet. They both went down, and the bed, someone had forgotten to put the brakes on, began to move. Bronwyn is a real pro. She had been sitting in bed once her character had awakened from her coma. Here's her doctor on the floor and her bed in motion. What would the character do? Bronwyn pretended to faint. She had a reputation as a world-class fainter, a real asset for a daytime drama ingenue.
Bronwyn Davies, actor, Felicity Copeland.
I committed myself to staying in character, trying every trick I knew to keep from laughing when the bed started to roll, and not end up with raccoon eyes because of the tears forming from the suppressed laughter. Nothing worked. I ended up choosing to collapse onto the bed to hide my face from the camera in case they were still shooting. I couldn't stop from convulsing, though. Maybe viewers would think I was having a seizure.
Al White, stage manager, Another Day to Live. Of course we had to reshoot the scene. 4 takes later, Austin had fallen 4 more times. I turned toward the booth, waiting for the director to shout in my ear to remove this doofus from the set. David Solomon, director, Another Day to Live. Austin followed up each fall with panache. The camera loved him, and he was a very skilled improviser. When he stumbled during the 6th take, I gave the order to keep the cameras rolling. Wade finally managed to stay on his feet. Austin pulls himself up by the bed rails and says, Austin Hughes. Miss me, you fucking sniper! David Solomon. No one got the joke at first. Kendra Lewis Frost.
Wade's lines right before the fall were, "We're aiming to start cognitive therapy right away. We can't promise she'll regain her memory, but we have to give it a shot." Even before I made the connection between the words aim and shot and Austin's improv, I thought he had delivered a brilliant line.
Leslie Tank Watson, camera operator. I lost it! I love my job, but the set of a daytime drama isn't exactly the funniest place in the world. I crossed my fingers Austin would stick around for a few episodes to keep the mood fun. Julius Welk, assistant director.
We couldn't shoot the scene again, what with the bruise forming on Austin's cheek and the bloody nose. I was able to splice the dialogue between him and Bronwyn from an earlier take onto the fall in the last one, minus the F-bomb, when I'd edited the scene. It was worth the effort. I thought the line he delivered after the final fall was pure gold.
Stephen Burrows, producer, control room, and scriptwriter. While everyone else was laughing, Julius had a fake smile on his face like he wanted to laugh too but didn't know why. He kept spinning his head around in hopes someone would let him in on the joke. David Solomon. I made the decision to have Tripp tend to Peter's wounds in order to give Austin, whom we had hired for this single scene, some bonus seconds of screen time. He had earned it. Julius and Sonia could worry about cutting the show down later. Sonia Santiago, production assistant.
Wade must have caught the improv bug. While tending to Austin's wounds, he diagnosed him with amnesia and admitted him to the hospital. Somehow the writers and the director lost control of the scene. Next thing you know, we stopped filming so the stagehands could bring a second bed onto the set. And now we had a third wheel subplot to develop for future episodes.
The original shooting schedule for Day 1 included 3 additional hospital scenes, none of which had anything to do with Hughes. With the curtains drawn around his bed, the actors proceeded to follow the original script, making no reference to the patient lying in the bed just out of the shot. The writers assembled in haste to write Hughes into the story. He next appeared in Episode 4 with 2 lines of dialogue. Kendra Lewis Frost, breakdown writer.
I knew the second they wheeled a bed onto the set for Austin, the first day of shooting, I wasn't going to sleep that night. I'd be counting ways to add his character into future scripts instead of counting sheep. On a daytime drama, the head writers developed the big story ideas. I was the breakdown writer on Another Day to Live, charged with outlining each episode and introducing the details the scriptwriter would incorporate into the script. When we finished shooting Day 1 scenes, Wayne, that's Wayne Quimby, the head writer, furrowed his forehead in thought, snapped his fingers, and said to me, "Make the doofus one of Quinn's henchmen."
Stephen Burrows, producer, control room, and scriptwriter. We didn't have to make major tweaks to the scripts we used during the first week of shooting. I rewrote one scene to remind viewers of the second amnesia patient from the first episode. I was under strict orders to write his part as an under 5 again. The producers were adamant about not bumping up his pay. I played it safe and gave him only 2 lines to leave room in the event he added in a line or 2 of his own improv. Wayne Quimby. We didn't give Austin much to do, but who could blame us? We didn't know if someone had made a mistake bringing him back. I figured if he screwed up again, we'd cut the scene, have him die from his injuries off camera, and tell Hughes not to let the door hit him on his ass on the way out of the studio. David Solomon. I knew we hadn't made a mistake bringing back his character. Austin was the first actor to sign in the morning we shot his second scene. He knew his lines before the start of the rehearsal. With him stuck in a hospital bed, it would have been impossible for him not to keep up during the blocking rehearsal. No, he was obviously a consummate pro, and it's a good thing he was. I had $1,000 riding on a bet with Wayne that Austin would work out. Sonia Santiago, production assistant.
David had me on Austin like a tick. No way he trusted him. But they had committed to paying him for a second day, so it was on them if things hadn't gone well.
Austin Hughes. The suits had to worry about whether I was a total moron, but I had the right motivation to show up early and do a good job. It was late July when we filmed the first week's episode. Rent was due in a couple of days. Plus, unlike the studio, my apartment didn't have AC. Managing Hughes was but one problem the producers faced. Hansen and Davies, while visually attractive as a couple, fell short of conveying a believable spark between their characters, Trip and Felicity. Al White, stage manager. Even if you were normally impervious to romantic tension between characters, would have picked up on the lack of chemistry between Wade and Bronwyn. They had none. Nada. Zilch. It was akin to watching the mating ritual between 2 annelid worms. Bad example. I'm not saying either actor could only love him or herself. I meant organisms that rely on asexual reproductions don't get aroused when they encounter another member of their species. Crap. I'm digging myself in a hole here. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Bronwyn Davies, actor, Felicity Copeland.
During the casting process, Wade and I read together. The second I saw him, I was panting because he is off the charts hot. I mean, damn. Whew. While we read, I snuggled up against his chest. His voice buzzed everywhere in my body when he read his lines. Of course, we nailed the scene.
Wade Hansen, actor, Archibald Edward Quinn III, a.k.a. Trip.
Bronwyn's a cutie, don't get me wrong. A tiny bundle of curls and curves. She has a cartoon character's bounce about her. But I wasn't thinking about her in any way except as my work partner when we were on camera. And off.
Bronwyn Davies.
His voice should have been the clue. A guy who looks great on camera and has a voice like hot fudge, but can't emote his way out of a paper bag, probably should have pursued a career in broadcast journalism.
Wade Hansen.
Everyone always assumes the romantic leads won't be able to keep their hands off each other when the cameras stop rolling. So yeah, a few people made cracks about me needing to keep it in my pants when I was hanging out with Bronwyn off set. I knew resisting her charms wouldn't be a problem for me. In retrospect, I can understand how I might have been overly committed to remaining professional, even on camera. But I wasn't getting notes to play it steamier either.
Al White. So, Wade played a character called Dr. Quinn. Someone came up with a nickname for him. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, after his first couple of scenes. He could easily have been a straight female frontier doctor treating a female patient, considering his unsexy bedside manner and his scenes with Bronwyn. Julius Welk, assistant director.
Off camera, Bronwyn flirted with everyone except for Wade. Early bets were on her hooking up with Blaine Carson, the actor who played her father, the DA. Thankfully, the heat between them cooled before we shot their first scene together. The network would have killed the show much earlier if Davies and Carson hadn't toned down their flirtations when the cameras were rolling.
Blaine Carson, actor, Harold Copeland.
I have a weakness for blondes. What can I say? Ask my ex-wives. On second thought, don't.
Bronwyn Davies.
I will tell you right now, I had no interest in Blaine. Ew, he's old enough to be my father. I can't understand why everyone calls me a big flirt. I'm friendly, that's all. I swear I've promised myself each time I've walked onto a new set, I would not hook up with another actor.
Al White. She said what? I'd worked with her before. She treats the acting world like her own dating app. Trust me, she had done a lot of right swiping before joining the cast of Another Day to Live. Austin Hughes. I'm not saying anything that anyone hadn't already figured out, but yes, it wasn't just the paycheck enticing me to return to shoot my next scene. But women in Bronwyn's league don't notice guys like me. Hughes hovered around Davies like a puppy waiting to be adopted. His ability to make her laugh only encouraged him to try harder. Bronwyn Davies.
When Austin came back to the set a couple of days after we began shooting, I hadn't made friends with anyone in the cast yet. I figured he'd be fun to hang around with during my downtime. They were shooting all the hospital scenes for 2 different episodes later in the day. I was in all but one of them, his scene. At that point in the shooting schedule, my character still had the memory capacity of a cup of Jell-O.
Austin Hughes. I couldn't believe it when Bronwyn Davies sidled up to me in the commissary on the lunch break. Why would the star hang out with a fat extra who probably didn't belong anywhere near the set of a soap opera? I was nervous as heck, but I'm a comedian. Saying funny things when life got tense was pretty much all I did from 7th grade until I graduated from high school. Hearing her laugh reminded me of taking the first swig of beer on a hot day. It left me craving the next sip. Bronwyn Davies.
Man, what were we talking about at our first lunch together? I can't remember. That's funny. I was playing an amnesia patient. Get it? But seriously, he was a hoot. He became an instant best friend. I don't tend to notice guys who aren't that hot, or at least hot enough to play the leading man. Shoot me, I'm awful. But I did find myself staring into his eyes. Even today, his sense of humor and the calm, clear green of his eyes can stop me in my tracks.
Austin Hughes. You know the weird mix of confidence and debilitating self-awareness you feel when you spend a lot of time with someone you have a crush on but whom you never get to kiss? That's pretty much everything I remember from shooting Another Day to Live. Felicity Copeland regained her memory at the end of episode 5. According to the script, sparks were already flying between her and Dr. Quinn. D.A. Harold Copeland appeared at his daughter's bedside at the start of the 2nd week. When he discovered her doctor was the son of his nemesis, he tried to quash the budding romance. Peter overheard Copeland talking about Duke Quinn behind the curtain separating his bed from Felicity's. Recognizing his boss's name, he recovered from his bout of amnesia. In episode 10, Hughes graduated from being an under-5 to a day player. His promotion guaranteed an increase in his lines and scenes in each episode as well as a raise. Kendra Lewis Frost, breakdown writer.
After maintaining a wide berth around Bronwyn during the first week, Wade showed a bit of interest in hanging out with her whenever she and Austin were together. I found the trio's off-camera dynamic to be a good source of inspiration for future plots.
Letitia Higgins, head hairdresser.
Heaven help me if Bronwyn, Wade, and Austin came into hair and makeup together. I couldn't hear myself think. Bronwyn has this laugh. You probably could play a recording of it for a random person on the street, and they would recognize whose laugh it was.
Austin Hughes. Picture Bronwyn choking on a highly vocal mouse. Her laugh starts with a wheeze component followed by a tattoo of squeaks. When you hear the donkey bray, you know she's run out of air. I never had to put my CPR training to use, but I always remain on high alert when she laughs. Wade Hansen.
Austin changed the dynamic backstage, that's for sure. He reminded me of my roommate from summer stock the year after college, Eric Bautista. Eric drew everyone to him. You'd come alive in his presence. Sorry, what was I saying? Oh, yes, Austin. Love the guy.
David Solomon, director.
Wade related well to Austin on camera. The couple of hospital scenes they had together brought out the best in his acting. Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, became good old Trip Quinn when he was treating Peter's injuries. It was clear they should become friends when Peter went back to work for Duke. And the dual loyalties set up a great conflict between Duke and Trip.
Duke endeavored to keep the unsavory side of his business dealings hidden from his son, but now Trip was acquainted with the guy who not only knew where the proverbial bodies were buried, he might have played a role in burying them, so to speak. Wade Hanson.
I haven't thought about Eric in years. I wonder what he's up to.
Wayne Quimby, head writer. They didn't hire Hughes as a contract actor, of course, but when we expanded his role beyond enabler of Duke's nefarious schemes to Trip's sidekick, it doubled his on-screen time. One thing we couldn't do, though, was give him his own plot. Maybe we should have. Then again, I don't know if it would have changed anything. Stephen Burrows, producer, control room, and scriptwriter. I'll admit I bear some of the responsibility for the direction the show took when Austin was in a scene. I loved what he did with the lines I wrote, and his acting in each scene inspired what I would write into the next script. He and I entered into a symbiotic dance. I was one of several writers on the show, but I, not the other writers, kept getting assigned the outlines with his scenes. Wayne Quimby. We called on Hughes to be a character actor in the role of Peter. Not that there is anything wrong with having someone in a small role in a daytime drama adding a little color or comic relief. But a little goes a long way. With Hughes's performances, we were heading for Mars. Moishe Bronfman, actor, Duke Quinn. No one in the cast complained about the increase in the number of lines they wrote for Austin. Well, maybe Blaine did. But you know Blaine, if he doesn't have anything nice to say, he speaks up. Blaine Carson, actor, Harold Copeland.
I was wondering, who is this guy? Why does he have nearly as many lines in each script as me? Had I known then that he'd be responsible for us getting canceled, I would have brought it to the producer's attention. I did check to make sure he was a SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists member. Unfortunately for me, fortunately, he was legit.
Kim Gifford, ABS Entertainment Chairman.
By Another Day to Live's debut in September 2004, we had 6 weeks' worth of episodes in the can. It was clear the show had its strong points. The cast and crew should have been proud of their efforts. I had a nagging suspicion early on that when the episodes from weeks 4 and 5 aired, it would appear as if a star from a sitcom had gotten lost on his way to the set, winding up at Another Day to Live instead.
Austin Hughes. All right, I'll finally fess up. I got a little lost on the studio lot back at the beginning. I was by myself walking through the sets during my downtime. I thought it was cool how you could move from, say, the ICU set directly into Duke's office and then into the Copeland's living room. I was by myself, doing a bit, giving a make-believe group of people a tour of a weird house where none of the rooms made any sense next to each other. And we're walking. I ran out of rooms at the back of the set, went through a door, and it locked on me. I was stuck in an alley in Queens with nothing but a bunch of dumpsters to keep me company. Someone in the group had warned me not to go through the door, but did I listen? No. It pissed me off when my tour group refused to let me back in. David Solomon. Things took an odd turn right around the premiere. We were, admittedly, having a ball on set. The actors were giving it their all, production was moving like clockwork, and we had become one big happy family. But when I considered the show we were offering viewers, I had serious doubts. I was caught between wanting to share our show with the public and panicking whenever I thought about reviews and ratings. Oh, and I may have had a wager going with Wayne about whether the show would be renewed for a second 13-week period. Blaine Carson.
It was obvious to me well before the show first aired that we weren't going to make it. The role of Peter served no purpose in driving the plot. He entertained when he was on camera, but to what end? But who listens to one actor complaining about another actor?
Bronwyn Davies.
I gave Blaine a nickname, Henny Penny. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Shut up already. And stop looking at my boobs.
Sonia Santiago, production assistant.
We were in the studio filming week 7's episodes during premiere week. Reviews were okay. We hit our target ratings numbers. Network brass came to the set to congratulate us the day after the premiere. The cast and crew members breathed a collective sigh of relief.
Kim Gifford.
I, along with other executives from the ABS network, had been on the set once or twice each week before the show aired. I can't say I didn't have a clue about the Austin situation, but if you were there watching him act, he'd put you under a spell. You saw him hamming it up a bit, sure, but he was otherwise flawless. He memorized his lines and cues immediately. He was always on set before they called him, and when I reviewed an episode during editing, his performance drew me in. I couldn't separate the quality of his work from the appropriateness of his presence on this particular show.
Leslie Tank Watson, camera operator. I saw the fatal moment first. In a scene we shot the day after the premiere, Trip and Peter were having bro time at a bar. Peter gets a little talkative after a third martini and mentions the Duke has him digging up dirt on one of the bigwigs at the hospital. Wade was supposed to step in front of Austin and stay still for a tag at the end of the scene. I zoom in, but Wade isn't in the shot. Austin Hughes. I love tags. They're the funniest things about soap operas. The scene ends, but instead of a fade-out, the characters freeze with these over-the-top expressions on their faces. I could go take a leak and come back and they'd still be mugging for the camera. I never was supposed to be the one on camera at the end of a scene while I was at another day. No matter how Peter was feeling about whatever had gone down during the scene, the writers didn't care. It was always another actor who was on camera for the tag. But Wade missed his mark. I noticed the camera was on me and was hot, and I decided I should do the tag. I made a whoopsies face and held it for all I was worth. Kim Gifford.
The bubble burst. I finally saw Austin clearly. He wasn't a daytime drama actor. None of the footage we had of him showed him to be anything except for a comedian. I knew another day would not survive with him in the cast. They had to write him off the show. But my brain was in overdrive. I dearly wanted to hold on to this actor and keep another network from turning him into a star.
Peter took a bullet meant for Duke in the episode they shot the next day. They hired a stand-in to play him. The attempted assassination scene is in one of the 20 episodes that never made it to air. After the 4th week that Another Day to Live was on the air, the cast and crew were given a 1-week vacation. The network canceled the show 5 days later. Blaine Carson.
Fucking Austin Hughes!